A heartfelt welcome to everybody in the studio and of course to everyone watching live from home. Today's episode of Cooking with Mediaahh is a very special one. Please give a round of applause for your host, Mediaahh! Thank you! Yes, I do love myself too. Thank you. I too welcome you all to today's special episode of... We good? Woo! That's the spirit, perfect. Let's go. Again, welcome to today's... Good. Welcome to today's special episode of Cooking with... me. We named today's episode Slice and Spice in light of what's about to happen. A quick and easy, okay, maybe not quite as quick, but hopefully useful guide to the basics of procurement and seasoning, both basic and more complex. But before I get started, a big thank you to the entire team of myself who helped to put this show together for you. But enough of that, back on topic. Let me first explain the structure of today's cooking lesson so you can easily follow along at home. Step 1 will be some useful tips for getting your hands on some fine specimen. After that, some seasoning for your weapon of choice to make the hunt go faster, be more fun, take forever if applied incorrectly, and one other thing I'll come to later. Then after cooking, the necessary steps on how to plate it up. I mean, we definitely want a once-in-a-lifetime experience for everybody involved, don't we? And finally, one more mystery entry that we just couldn't seem to fit into any of the other categories. Well then, let's start with procurement. My team of skilled hunters already brought in these fine, unrecognizable hunks of meat for me to work with. I kinda asked for careful handling during and after the hunt, but each of these met with what they described as unavoidable casualties and unexpected levels of damage output. Or what I would describe it as sheer wanton overkill. But since that's not gonna stop me, I'm just gonna tell you which is which as I go along. Before I get into this topic though, for each of the upcoming procurement methods there is 2 stages, levels, variations, call it whatever. One is the inherent bonus for using the right type of damage on the right type of target. The other is its active effect, which has a weapon dependent chance of triggering. That's this number. And to make doubly sure, each of our hunters is equipped with weapons of the relevant type in all slots. As much as possible anyway. This thing sucks. And with that out of the way, hunk number 1. This here is the prime cut from a Grenadier Lancer, one of the most abundant representatives of its faction. Are you certain that's what this is? Well, to be honest, it's whatever we were able to find afterwards, so maybe? Okay, prime cut it is. Now, always remember kids, Grenadier have a very hard shell which keeps them safe from predators. Similar to how in medieval times knights cosplayed as buckets to stay safe and cause a massive racket whenever they move.
I hope it's worth the noise!
That led to the development of a special technique to counter said shell, which is called knocking. Sorta like a friendly neighbor at your door, but with, shall we say, less friendly intentions. And it's usually performed using a blunt and heavy object of some sort. In medieval times that meant everything from stones through maces to the wrong end of a sword as covered previously. In current year in Warframe it means all weapons with a primary focus on impact damage, which is marked by this symbol. To visualize this, I did my best to mod the damage of these 2 weapons as close to each other as I was able. This one with a focus on impact damage, this one on something else. Stronger enemies maybe? Huh. Okay, that was maybe a bit too far off the other end, but you can easily see the difference it makes, given a bit of time. It provides a big advantage against enemies that try to play the tough guy and helps you turn their insides into soup without cracking the protective shell. Unless of course your hunter brings out the biggest mallet in the arsenal and tries to beat some form of distance record. I'm sorry, okay? Sorry my ass, you took a sledgehammer to a piñata. Anyway. If applied in a more subtle way, hint hint, which means triggering the aforementioned active status effect before complete annihilation, it causes them to stumble around like a drunk person for a bit. That's called stagger. It makes sure they don't run off or fight back overly much. I mean, look at that poor sod, he can't do shit. And that's how we generally handle these hard-shelled critters. Moving on to fleshy bit number 2. Fresh fillet from a corpus... what was it? A corpus crewman or other. I mean, there is some variety within those, but the same things apply to all of them, so let's see. Corpus don't normally wear any armor to speak of, so they would be rather squishy, especially in light of some overabundant amount of force or other. Would you all just stop completely mangling these low-level... But they make up for that squishiness by equipping shields. Well, they're trying at least. Remember, if your meat is weak... Hey, who's messing with my teleprompt? Okay, flesh weak, make sure no touch, good concept, moving on. Against that approach we use a weapon that deals primarily in puncture damage. Wrong game. The easiest way to picture such a weapon would probably be a rapier, so an oversized needle for anyone unfamiliar, or if more force is needed, some form of high caliber sniper rifle or something. And no, there is no in between for me. But basically anything with a pointy tip should do. Picture the shield as a bubble and you need something to pop it like a balloon that... sure. Maybe a bit excessive, but also wrong game. In a side-by-side comparison you can see the difference quite well. Again, damage as close as I was able to get it. And the choice of enemies is a bit more reasonable. Okay, you can kinda see it, maybe. It's actually pretty difficult to properly show a difference since that only really comes into play with high-level enemies. In addition, most weapons deal at least some amount of each damage type and many are even fully balanced. But that's not the point right now. The main claim to fame with Puncture is that it works great against factions with shields, but it also comes with a shockingly potent active effect. It can reduce the target's damage output by a significant amount while making critical strikes a lot more likely. Though, not like that would matter much in this scenario. So poke him in the eyes or something, that should be considered puncture and a crit. Or you do that but with tools. Or in other words, they can't do much to fend you off and are just waiting to... fly apart so that the cook may have a harder time telling what the f he's even working with. You see, just don't even, okay? And that's how you handle yourself around bubbles. And last but not least, Mystery Meat the Third. A pre-minced pile of... I'm not reading that. Oh. Sorry, but no. Pretty please. Ugh. This lump here is from Infested. See, Grineer and Corpus can both be found in small groups or even solitary, allowing for precise and quick work singling out one target. But for Infested, that is rather unlikely since they usually appear in larger groups or even entire swarms. Meaning you will most likely always hit quite a few with each swing. Leading to, and I quote, we are not quite sure what specific individual this might be from or if it even is from just a singular one. Thanks for that. So mixed ground meat of known, unknown, probable origin. Now, if you've never encountered Infested before, there's a few things of note. They never come with shields and only a few rare ones ever come with any armor. Although when they do, it's also plenty. Oh boy. And that is despite them being somewhat distorted members of the Grineer and Corpus. So you will mostly face just that. Piles of mutated meat that just so happen to still be moving and also just so happen to resemble the other factions. In a way, the Infested could be considered the aged variety of the other two. They might be well past the use-by date as far as I can tell, but what gives? I'm just the cook, I don't have to eat it. Now, the easiest way to make them stop moving for good is the third physical damage type, Slash. And the weapons that deal slash damage are usually quite easy to identify as well. Everything with a proper blade and then some. Just look for this symbol. And you might have worked it out by now, but it is very good against Infested, and one other faction that comes up later in the story. Now, that a blade works well against meat was probably not hard to guess, especially from a chef's perspective, but also as a plot point in some movies, in books and anime. Huh, always interesting to experience. In the side-by-side you can again see the difference it makes, I think. Okay, that's a strong maybe. But in that same vein, the million-dollar question. What is the active status effect of that damage type? Correct, profuse blood loss over time, which also completely bypasses any and all armor. The effect of which making it look like a bottle of ketchup exploded inside. That's by the way why these damn cats in the plains are such a nuisance. I'm more concerned about these cats, what the f— Know what? Never mind, I'm over that.
No, you're not.
Shish, why are you here?
To be a sassy little bitch in accordance with my contract.
Sure. Anyway, while you might assume that Slash as the main damage type might only be found in melee, that's not at all true. There is a good number of ranged weapons that'll also do that for you, some of which are also very easy to identify. And then there's unique blends of both worlds. Huh. But then again, nothing beats that explosive shower of blood and gory bits that comes with being right there when... I'm getting the stink eye from the janitor here, so I'm gonna refrain from finishing that, but bottom line, melee cool. And that's the stories behind these 3 lovely bits of meat that I'm gonna work with today. Next up come the aforementioned hunting tips. Although I should probably call it culling in those cases, not hunting, since the results tend to be less than appetizing or straight up no longer safe for or even available for consumption. But I will still entertain the thought and include them here. For this I will use one of the 4 primary elemental spices. And while elements will probably make you think of earth, wind, water, fire, that's not quite what it's like in Warframe. I mean sure, fire's a thing like in any other good fantasy setting.
Hey, this is not fantasy.
Wait, okay, hold that thought. Yes, you're right, it's sci-fi, but fire damage is like the most stereotypical damage type for just about any... Just let me do my thing, yeah? And it's also not even fire damage, it's called heat, just so you know. Now, this for most players will probably be among, if not the first element they get their hands on, as it is part of a quest against Infested very early on. And what is it?
Are you sure about that? I seem to remember that
Yes, mostly sure. However, I want to document the whole story and do the masteries and yada yada, so for me it was actually the last one I got my hands on, okay? So what? Can I please? Anyway, it is a great way to spice up your dish and turn up the proverbial heat. Get it? Get it? And just like before, each of them comes with an inherent bonus against certain things and an active effect. But in addition, they also sometimes have some drawbacks against certain other targets. Now, as for heat, we recommend it be used extensively against Infested since heat and meat don't mesh well. Assuming said meat is currently alive, otherwise go right ahead, have a barbecue. However, against Kuva Grineer, which is a more advanced form of Grineer, the damage it'll do is halved. I mean, setting a metal plate on fire is inherently difficult, so just steer clear of them if you only have a lighter with you. And as for its active status effect, I mean, what do you think? Sets shit on fire, plain and simple. With the enemies having the appropriate reaction, mild panic. I mean, being on fire is just that little bit more important than catching an intruder, I guess. Okay, that is very mild panic. Now, you might consider this pre-simmering or some other such haute cuisine something, sorry about the pronunciation there, but you'd be wrong. All this returns is a carbonized brick of X meat. Even though I hear some people like their steak well done, so who am I to judge? Okay, never mind, they burn so well they just keep going and don't even leave ash behind. What clean combustion, I'm almost impressed. Oh, and before I forget, burning enemies also lose half their armor for some reason. Not quite sure why that is. Could be something like throwing your armor off should it catch fire and slipping it back on when it stops burning, I don't know, that's just how it is. Well then, after heat, let's switch to the polar opposite. Get it? Polar? Cold? Okay. Well, this one is also very straightforward. Freezes shit. And while I would usually recommend it in the form of ice cream, I don't have any on hand just yet. See, while the bonus against sentience and the penalty against tech rot will come in handy at some point and are good to know, they are also of no concern for any aspiring new Tenno for quite some time. As demonstrated by the fact that I also have yet to unlock one of them. I'm just gonna leave it at that. The active effect though, that is something you can always enjoy. If you blast someone with enough cold, they will get slower and eventually freeze over for a bit. And I don't have to explain how that is useful, do I? I mean, that's ice, right? Let's make it into cream. Tasty, my favorite, meat monolith. Oh, and they won't die from that alone since it deals no ongoing damage, which actually makes this element the odd one out. Also, should you ever feel like you want to experience the effect yourself, just look around for one of these grey barrels, stand next to it and pop the lid. Or for a more consistent and lasting slow-mo, visit the void and look for one of these. Just clear out the death orbs first because, well, it's kinda in the never mind. Someone messed up, I think. Are these meant to pass overhead? And even though for our meat example it would maybe help keep it longer, all of this only leads to the equivalent of frostbite. So I'm gonna refrain from using that on today's meal. I will also not use the next one on my list. Toxin, or in other words, straight up poison, since I assume we are cooking with the intent of having whoever consumes it survive mealtime. Now, the bonus damage in this case is against Nama only, which again is another faction that won't concern a new player for a long while, I think. Haven't really had a chance to verify that yet, to be honest. I really don't play this game as intended, I'm sure, so the proper time frame of various encounters is a complete mystery to me, just so you know. But to come back to the task at hand, no one is safe from or even resistant to this, making it a reliable choice when out and about, regardless of faction. Just don't take a taste from it once you're done. Might make your tongue tingle and your blood change color. The active effect of that probably also not a surprise, slowly poisoning the target to death. What makes this incredibly worthwhile, however, is that the effect only applies to health and bypasses shields completely. So specifically the corpus will have a very bad time against this. Just a few drops on a towel and ignore that cracking sound. I just thought it fits the scene. Oh, and do be careful to not get yourself killed in the process, same rules apply to you. Especially since these lanky f***s are very adept at dispensing toxic goop. Ow! And the final entry for the primary elements, another thing you should be careful around. Electricity. not too much to say on that front. The bonus is on Corpus Amalgam and the Murmur, and don't worry what those are just yet, while it too has no faction with a specific resistance to it. The active effect is something you can experience for yourself if you behave in certain ways around certain people in uniform. However, this version of tasering someone has a nice bonus to it. It spreads to nearby enemies, holding them all in place, ready for a quick and dirty sideways sweep of whatever you've got on hand. Just be quick about it, or the accompanying damage over time deals the finishing blow instead. Or should I say finishing zap?
Really?
Yes. And since we've established that this is not fantasy, there is also no risk of anyone coming back to life by accident. But all it'll do for my case here is to make the meat very tough, since you can't exactly call this a relaxed passing. I'd even go as far as calling it very stressed. For all 7 of these, if you want more detailed info, go and read through the wiki or watch a more comprehensive video than this one. I mean, some even include the formulas and math examples, which is not something I want to dive into. Shocker, I know. These last 4 especially make the hunt easier and faster, but kinda ruin the product, so mixed bag for today's purposes. See, I want a more natural experience with not quite but somewhat more ethically sourced bits. And so my materials were only physically mutilated instead of molten, frozen, poisoned or electrocuted, or worse, which I will get to after cooking up the meat. Since the exact cooking time depends on the size of the biological debris you're working with, your mileage may vary. But suffice to say that for these, even at maximum heat, it will take a quick minute. Or a hot minute, you might, never mind. We will now take a little breather here in the studio and give you at home some time to catch up. In the meantime, you can use this chance to win $1 or 10,000 SUVs. Wait, what? Sure. See you all again after a quick ad break. Oh shit, oh shit. Shit. Are you tired of drinking plain old tap water or bland bottled water? Are you tired of keeping track how much you drink each day? You are? Well, worry no more. We here at Mediaahh feel your pain and your willingness to part with your money over it. Introducing Generic Beverage. The same plain old tap water in a more fancy bottle and for only double the price.
What an absolute steal!
Get yours today. At this time we're sure it's legally okay to sell.com. Please be aware that you still have to drink the same amount as before. Gotcha. That was fast.